All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something, honestly, pretty fascinating. We are going to objectively map out a sweeping, highly complex political theory presented by a channel called Promethean Updates. What is so incredible about this source material is how it takes a massive array of seemingly totally disconnected topics. We're talking international diplomacy, constitutional appointments, international courts, and even the price of meat at your local grocery store, and attempts to stitch them all together into one grand narrative. Let's dive right in.
So, the source material we're looking at today weaves a super intricate narrative. It essentially argues that a coordinated, global imperial structure is actively working to consolidate power and counteract national sovereignty. Now, whether you buy into this assessment or not, mapping out the architecture of an argument like this gives us incredible insight into how modern political commentary constructs these expansive, worldview-defining frameworks. Our goal here isn't to endorse these claims, but to understand exactly how the creator connects all these global dots.
To unpack this massive argument, we're going to trace the creator's logic through 5 distinct sections. First, a new global order. Second, the governor-general appointment. Third, linking the ICC to Jack Smith. Fourth, taking on meat cartels. And finally, the ultimate geopolitical clash. Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, a new global order.
Our source starts its geopolitical mapping off the beaten path, not in Washington or London, but at a recent diplomatic summit in Armenia, which heavily featured Canadian official Mark Carney. The creator hones in on a very specific quote from Carney at that summit. The international order will be rebuilt, but it will be rebuilt out of Europe. According to the explainer, this wasn't just some casual, throwaway diplomatic observation. The creator frames this as an open admission. Basically, a declaration that a successor to the old global system is being actively engineered right now. And notably, the United States is excluded from that rebuilding process. From there, the creator points to the exact nations supposedly driving this successor system. It's essentially the Anglosphere, Canada, the UK, and Australia, teamed up with the European Union. The argument here is that this isn't just friendly democracies cooperating. No, it's pitched as a consolidated imperial structure. In the creator's view, it's a deliberate power center designed specifically to rival and ultimately dismantle Donald Trump's American system of sovereign nations. Moving right along to Section 2, the Governor-General appointment.
Now, the source pivots to what looks like a dry, administrative Canadian constitutional appointment made right after Carney returned to Ottawa. To really grasp the argument here, we have to look at how they define the role of Governor-General. The narrator heavily emphasizes that, contrary to what the general public might assume, ultimate power in Canada actually doesn't belong to the Prime Minister. It belongs to the Crown, acting through this Governor-General. The source heavily underlines that this unelected official is literally the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and holds the constitutional power to dismiss the government entirely.
And the person placed into this immensely powerful role? Louise Arbour. The claim here is that installing Arbour isn't just some routine HR move. Instead, it's framed as a highly deliberate signal regarding the architecture of this new rules-based order. But why her, right? What makes Louise Arbour so central to this entire theory?
Which brings us to Section 3,
linking the ICC to Jack Smith.
To draw a continuous line from Arbour's past straight into domestic U.S. politics, the source maps out a very literal connect-the-dots legal web. Let's walk through it. Step 1. Louise Arbour builds her career at UN tribunals and actively champions the creation of a permanent International Criminal Court, or ICC. Step 2. The creator brings up documents showing George Soros's Open Society Foundations actively funding and supporting the ICC's apparatus. Step 3. Special counsel Jack Smith spends years working inside that very same ICC office in The Hague. And Step 4. Jack Smith brings that legal framework back to the U.S. to prosecute Donald Trump.
By tracking these overlapping institutions, the source argues that we're essentially looking at recycled legal architecture. From the UN tribunals to the ICC, all the way to the Kosovo specialist chambers, the source traces a continuous institutional evolution. The core argument is that the exact same global legal framework and the very same personnel are continuously deployed to target sovereign domestic leaders who step out of line with the global system. This, the creator asserts, is exactly why Arbour's appointment in Canada is so deeply entwined with Jack Smith's activities in the U.S.
Okay, brace for a sharp turn. Section 4, taking on meat cartels.
Shifting drastically away from international law, the source asserts this exact same imperial control mechanism reaches right into your local grocery store. Relying on data from a recent press conference, the explainer highlights a completely astounding statistic. Just 4 companies, JBS, Cargill, Tyson, and National Beef, control an overwhelming 85% of the U.S. meat processing market. The source makes sure to emphasize that half of these corporate giants are foreign-owned, framing this not just as a tricky economic issue, but as a direct, literal threat to American national security and domestic independence. So, where did this monopoly even come from? Well, the creator draws a direct historical line starting back in 1971. That was the year the US dollar was cut loose from the Bretton Woods gold standard. The video argues this specific move shifted the entire global financial system from production to extraction. Just look at the acceleration here. In the 1970s, the Big Four only controlled 25% of the market. By 1992, it jumped to 71%, and today it's sitting at 85%. The creator views this massive sweeping cartelization as the ultimate hallmark of the imperial system's business model.
To put the human cost into perspective, the explainer drops a staggering number. Over 100,000 American cattle ranches have completely disappeared in the past decade alone. For the source, this isn't just a tough byproduct of free market capitalism, it's the fully intended result of an extractive, globally controlled monopoly destroying sovereign domestic producers.
Now, to tie this domestic economics pillar firmly back to global geopolitics, the source highlights a fascinating overlap. It points out that a holding company controlling JBS, again, the massive Brazilian meatpacker, has shared top personnel with the governing council of Lloyd's of London. And Lloyd's of London, the source notes, historically controlled global shipping insurance in vital maritime choke points like the Strait of Hormuz. For the creator, this is the smoking gun that proves it's all one singular system. Whether they're pricing oil in the Middle East or pricing hamburger meat in Middle America, it's all steered by the same interlocking global financial institutions.
And finally, Section 5, the ultimate geopolitical clash. This is the final synthesis, pulling all these wildly disparate threads into one overarching conflict. It presents a very stark binary. On one side, you've got the imperial system. This is defined by globalization, financial extraction, market cartelization, and legal control by foreign institutions. On the flip side, you have the American system, characterized by national sovereignty, domestic production, and true economic independence. According to the creator, the current administration's active push to dismantle agricultural monopolies and shipping cartels represents the first legitimate, coordinated challenge to this 50-year-old unified imperial framework. Ultimately, whether you see this source material as uncovering a grand, coordinated global architecture or just an attempt to squeeze a bunch of totally unrelated events into a highly stylized box, it's incredibly revealing. This explainer really highlights exactly how modern political commentary attempts to weave law, economics, and diplomacy into a single comprehensive narrative. It leaves us with a critical question to think about. How much of our political reality is shaped by the individual events themselves, and how much is shaped by the complex narratives we construct to connect them all? Thanks for exploring this massive web of ideas with me. Keep asking questions and always look at the bigger picture.